Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. Today we'll be painting the Orc Murknob with Belchabana we got from the Age of Sigmar Dominion box set. Rather good model here. We're going to get it up to tabletop ready standard so that we can get on the table quickly. It should take you under a week to paint. To start, I primed this guy standard Mechanicus gray. I used mostly army painter colors, so jungle green, leather brown, fur brown, oak brown, shiny silver, ash gray, Necromancer Cloak, desert yellow, dragon red, ash gray, Kobold Skin, and matte black. Then I did use some Citadel paint colors from Games Workshop, Mephiston Red, and Ionrach Skin, and I used the Nuln Oil wash, Drakenhof Nightshade, and Agrax Earthshade. I did also use one Vallejo color here. Used the German camouflage beige World War II, but you could use any one of the darker khakis out there. So a few more colors than I normally use, but this is going to be a centerpiece on your table. So let's go and get started on this guy. So I have the Murknob primed standard Mechanicus gray, and I'm going to use some Army Painter jungle green. Just block in some of the color here on the skin. Neatness doesn't really count at this point. If you run over the lines, not that big a deal. Now we're going to paint some Army Painter leather brown onto the various skins that he's wearing. That's my dog sneezing again. Alright, so we've got the clothes here. Try to keep it off the green, but otherwise we don't need to be too neat. And you can tell he's wearing all these skins all over. Now I'm going to take some fur brown from Army Painter, and you'll see that there's these little bundles. I interpret those to be bundles of like little swamp vines. So the idea I have is that they go through and they collect these hides from the swamps and they tie them up. Now if you look at some of the art, they'll paint these black. Let's see where some other ones are. Around his legs. Now I'm going to take some Army Painter Mephiston Red, because it is my favorite red here. And I am going to get the little plate here in the middle on his tummy. And then on his icon, I'm going to get this big giant tiki head thing. Let's see, you know what, should I do the plate on the back? No, I'll skip that one. I want to do the back side of this tiki head. Now I'm going to take some Stirland Mud, texture up the base here. I've got my little tool. And I'm just going to put a big thick coat down. Now what I'm trying to do is jam it so it connects with the rock, which is actually part of the model, that ties it in with the base. Trying to get rid of that seam so it doesn't show up in the paint job. Now that the Stirland Mud's dried, I am going to take some Necromancer Cloak. This is how I do most of my bases for commission. And commission as in, I volunteer to paint them just for practice. So you can tell I've messed this brush up in the past. And so I'm just going to slop this paint down here. Now I'm going to take some Army Painter Oak Brown. And I'm going to do the wooden shaft with a pull here. Just one thick coat. Now I'm going to use some gunmetal, and I am going to use that, you're right, on all the metal pieces. Just the armor. And then he's got some metal up here on his standard. So we'll get all those. Don't forget his shin guards, because I thought that was originally his knee. He's got a little more metal than some of the common guys. Now we'll put on some ash gray onto his tactical rock. Now I'm going to take some weapon bronze. We're going to put it on these two plates here. Now we're going to take some Army Painter Shining Silver, and we're going to do blade. The metal parts of the weapon. Now we're going to take some Army Painter Scar Tissue, and we're going to do the tongue very carefully. Notice there's a little bit of blood runs all the way down the mask. It's very cleverly impaled. If you actually spin it around, you notice a lot of the details on the back here. Now we're going to pour some liquid talent on our model. So we're going to get out our Nuln Oil. So I've got my messed up brush slightly wet, and I'm just going to slop this stuff on here. I'm going to make sure to also get the undercarriage. Notice that some parts of the model are still unpainted. That's because I don't want them to be touched by the Nuln Oil. We're going to have something else in mind for them. Now that all the Nuln Oil has dried, I'm going to take some Army Painter Scaly Hide and work on the skin. So I have a pointy brush that I've cut down to a dry brush. So I'm going to put some paint on it, wipe most of it off, and I'm just going to hit the high areas. And this will pick up some of the ridges on his face. And we'll tone it down. Too much, it looks kind of a greenish white. So not too much just on the high ridges. Now that the Nuln Oil has dried, I'm going to get some ash gray. What I'm going to do is cover up these heads. And so I basically treated one part of the model separate from these heads. I'm going to color, basically I'm coloring them at a different time. I'm going to use different wash. We're just going to go around like that. And we got the little head down there. And while I'm at it, I've got my little brush that was a normal brush and cut into a dry brush. And I'm going to make it so that the tops, little kernels here, a little bit of the stone. We're just going to go around to that. So let's get these heads cleaned up and we'll finish dry brushing the base. While we wait for that ash gray to dry, I'm going to go back to my Army Painter Weapon Bronze and I'm going to do... Alright, so apparently I dropped some bead of water in my palette. It's mixing with the paint so it's thinned down. Okay. Now, so let's go, we're going to do the same thing like with the red armor. Just hit the raised areas. There we go. Got that done. Another color we're going to touch up after I pick up my brush is we're going to go back to our scar tissue here. I want to punch up the tongue. Just move sideways like that. We'll come back to the blood later. We got some Army Painter Desert Yellow here. And what I'm going to use that for is there's various parts of his clothing. So he's got these little straps. So I'm going to have all the stitch work and little straps done in the Desert Yellow. So you can see little stitchings in the clothes. Paint those the Desert Yellow. And also, you gotta be careful with this section, but he's got the skulls, the heads mounted using little cords. So I'm going to mark those. So just do this tiny detail work with our tiny brush. Now I'm going to take some Army Painter Kobold Skin and just using one thin coat, I'm going to make this head look fresher than the other ones. And I'm just going to, you don't have to get perfectly covered and smooth with this one. Just want the hint that there is skin there. Now I'm going to take some Drakenhof Nightshade, which is a blue wash. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to wet the bristles, and just take a little bit and spread it over. Get the dead hand up here. I'm going to put it on this one too. There we go. We're going to need some time for that to dry. But while we do that, we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade. Using the same wet brush. Now we're going to take some matte black, and I'm going to do this guy's here. Alright, then I'm going to take some Vallejo German Camouflage Beige, World War II. And I'm going to use my large dry brush so we wipe most of this off. That's the wrong dry brush. Alright, this is the right dry brush. This one has most of its bristles left. So, get that on, rub most of it off. Then just take a couple of whacks at the model here. And then take our brush, we're going to take that Vallejo and do the teeth. Now I'm going to use Army Painter's Glistening Blood from their effects line. My first time using this, so hopefully it works well. So we can see on here, there's some little pieces here. That are drops of blood. I'll go ahead and get those. I also want to just kind of jam it in the back of the hand. What I'll do is put this on. Like that. Kind of just jam it in there. there. You know what? This head's a little fresher. Like there. Alright. Well, and that is our model. So, well, thank you for joining us at Miniature Wargaming Labs. We'll see you next time.